Welcome back to the What the Falk podcast following a 2-2 draw against Blackburn Rovers on Boxing Day. The lads were just inches away from getting another comeback win, or on my end, a shot away from getting a dramatic 3 points, however you look at it. But the podcasts are coming thick and fast, so let's just get straight to introducing the lad who is joining me tonight. Just me and Peter tonight. Peter, how are we doing? You all right?
I'm very well, Graham. I've had a lovely Christmas. Hope everybody listening's had a really nice time. I hope you've had a really nice time as well, my man. Yeah, do you know what? I was absolutely gutted at full time, and I'm a little bit more sanguine now. Still not happy about everything, but it's a point away from home and onwards and upwards to Sunday.
How was your Christmas? I'm going to ask because obviously haven't spoke very
Do you
much
know what?
because we just didn't.
We just haven't spoken. It's been podcast after podcast. Christmas has been lovely. I've been back in Hetton with me mum and dad, my wife Cheyenne, and our 7-month-old daughter Fiona. So we've had our first Christmas as parents. It's been busy. Lots of people to see, including Santa Claus and all kinds of stuff. It's been brilliant though. It's been, and that is the dog trying to get in the room that I'm doing the podcast from. So I'm hoping by saying that out loud, somebody will come and get him. So yeah, no, it's been brilliant. We're heading back to Berlin tomorrow. Got a boat to catch from Tynemouth and then over to Amsterdam, and we'll get that sorted there. Lovely time. Santa came, so I must have been a good lad.
You know what's funny? The funniest part I find about this is, and I don't know if anyone notices this, and I might offend you even by saying this, but it's fine if I do. It's fine if I do. Because you've been out of Sunderland for that long, you have most of your accent, but when you say Fiona, it sounds like Mickey Gray doing TalkSport trying to pretend he's not from Sunderland.
Well, he lives in Manchester now, don't you know? But look, I'm born and bred in Hetton, but as I was pointing out the day, as I was trying to make my way back from Seaham Beach, and my mum said, "You've just got to go down this road, that road, and the other road," and I had to go, "Mum, I've lived out of the northeast longer than I'll ever lived in it these days, so I'm a little bit lost there. I'm going to have to go with the sat nav." But I have a bit of that, and if you actually watch me or listen to me on any of the stuff I do, which isn't talking about Sunderland, I didn't talk like this, So sometimes I do have a touch of the
The Mickey Grays.
reserve pronunciation. Touch of the Mickey Grays. You were there. Talk us through a little bit of this, because that away end looked absolutely class. And considering I don't think he's had an awful lot to cheer on in the first half, he did us proud.
It was a great away end, to be honest. I felt like sometimes when you got like a big away end, you can sort of build it up a bit like you can build up Christmas, a film that you really want to see, a concert, a band you really like. And when you go, 7,500 going away, Boxing Day, it's going to be class this. It can sometimes be a bit of a letdown. Not often with something, to be completely honest, but sometimes it can be either by result or by just the atmosphere and what it's like. But today was class. Like, the wind was great. Like, no one caused any bother. No one was too drunk. Everyone sang. Everyone got stuck in. Everyone had a laugh. And to be honest with you, it was quite a contrast. 'Cause I was going to ask how you're feeling after it, because overall it feels like, because of two moments at the end, it was like more painful than it should be, potentially 2 points dropped. And I don't think we can say it's not 2 points dropped because of the way that it came. But what I would say is that the atmosphere when I went on Twitter, which I've said this before, it's one of my cliches, not a barometer for anything, but the atmosphere on Twitter, blue sky, all that kind of stuff, was vastly different to how it felt in the stadium. As soon as the whistle went, a lot of people like immediately clapped the fans. It was "Something Till I Die." It was like singing songs and stuff like that. And look, it doesn't make them any better or any worse than someone who's frustrated by it, because it's a frustrating result, especially how it came. Well, it's not a frustrating result. The result and how it came to be was frustrating, and how it ended. But I felt like the fans kind of went, you know what, poor first half. You turned it around. This is the fifth game in a row. You had a bit of a go, but you're inches away from winning that. There's numerous chances before the equalise. But how are you feeling about the game? Because I suppose in a way it is a good point, but the way that it's come is painful. You can't really deny that.
It's interesting that you talk about going on the socials there, because I've had a different view of that, because there was stuff I've been able to see, because I've had family and friends that I haven't seen. So as soon as full time went, I was off doing that. We were gutted here. We were absolutely devastated by that. They hadn't been able to hang on to the win, or they hadn't been able to sneak it right at the end there. And then just before I've come on to speak to you, I had a look, and obviously the lads and lasses who've been at the game are now putting up what they were saying, what it was like on the socials. Yeah, it does seem like it was a much better received result if you were in the stadium than if you were watching it on TV or on the stream. And at half time, I was watching it with my granddad and my dad, and we were saying, look, a draw here. We'll take a draw. A draw against these. These look better than we thought, and we're not really at all at sea in that first half. We're not at the race. Just going to keep on listing cliches. We're not playing as we should be in that first half. But because they played so well when they came out after half time, they looked so dominant. Particularly, I could list that midfield of Job, Rigg, and Dan Neil. Wow, they just absolutely bossed it and absolutely dominated. The goal from Rigg, the goal from Isidore. We just thought we were there, and then for it to be snatched away, it's hard. It's hard to take. But if you're going to concede sloppy rubbish goals, you're going to get sloppy rubbish results. And that's unfortunately what's happened. And the second goal looked like it was coming from the moment the first ball went in to the box. It looked like it was going to be there. But yeah, do you know, it's a point away from home against a team that are in amongst it, really. They're in the playoff chases with us. And we'll probably look back on that as not a bad result later on. We're 4 points off top. Aren't we? After that Leeds result, I've got the table right in front of us. I should be able to read that. Yeah, we're 4 points off top, and we've got to play one of the teams that's in the automatic spots. So it's not that bad, really. What was it? 1 defeat in 16? Cracking. I know there's been too many draws, and I know there's problems. But if we can see there's problems, you've got to hope Riggy's can as well.
I think it's in our hands. Like that's the thing. It's in our hands at the minute. Turn around because the games we've got. I mean, you talk about the Leeds Stoke game. I tried to watch it, but I couldn't because that was just fog central. But I do feel there's a lot more positives coming out of today, and I'm really pleased that I felt like at the start of the season we were winning games, scoring first, and then being resolute defensively and being solid and stringent in how we defended and how we attacked. Like the Middlesbrough game, they had a lot of the ball, but we scored, and that was it. We just kind of, I wouldn't say we shut up shop. We just went, well, have a go if you think you're good enough, and they weren't, as they're proven. I think you look at the Burnley game, we had a good go the first 35 minutes, but once we got a goal, we became like defensively resolute. So I'm pleased that the last 5 games we've shown that, all right, we might go a goal down. I mean, it's quite funny today, you're watching the Blackburn fans going absolutely mental when the first goal went in. It's like, have you not watched our last 4 games? Lo and behold, we came back, and it was nice to have that confidence that we could. Look, so did they. It's a right kick in the bollocks when that happened. But the first half, if we're completely honest with each other, the most entertaining part was Jude Bellingham singing about Alan Shearer's hat.
The smile he gives, the smile his father gives him, the smile his dad gives him is class, man. And it's exactly as the camera's on him. It's brilliant. If you haven't seen it, yes, he's singing a certain song about a certain man.
Tons of positives today. I think the negatives we've touched on a bit. We'll get to we'll dig into the negatives a little bit more in a moment. But first and foremost, look, really good game from Dan Neil. I want to point this out because me and you had a big discussion about it. Patrick Roberts, another assist and involved in the first goal. You look at Isidore's finish. I think we all said he needs a goal. Lo and behold, Wilson does. He doesn't do normal tap-ins, does he? So he went and does what he does. But we will go on to I think there's 2 negatives from today outside of how we conceded. But plenty positives today. Patrick looks back to his best. Dan Neil definitely looks back to where he should be. There's something that's... Hopefully it's a new contract that's made him happier, but lots of good things to take today, isn't it?
Best Dan Neil I've seen. And I think it's the last 3 games. He's just kept it going and building it up. But out of those, this has been the best one I've seen where that midfield was his.
Yeah.
And when you've got him playing like that and Job being Job and being as good as he was, of course, Chris Rigg, and we're all hoping that tomorrow we're going to get the biggest gift we can get for Christmas, that we find out that he's just a bit bruised and maybe he misses a couple of games and that's about it. Yeah, look, Dan Neil was absolutely quality today. I wish sometimes he'd have willingness to have a dig with his left, because there was one chance where he made it all himself and he did it all himself, and the only shot that was available to him was with a left foot and he passed it out. But yeah, look, I thought Dan Neil was absolutely magnificent today. Patrick Roberts, everything came through him. I really wanted him right at the end there where he had that chance. I really wanted him to beat that lad that's on. I think he's on loan from Liverpool to them, because there was a bit beforehand where they were having a few words with each other, And that's the way to answer it back. I'm exactly. You can't knock those positives you've got there. I mean, Wilson Isidore to get that goal. In the interview the lad gave after the match, where he said, "Look, I'm very happy to score like that, but this wasn't the present we want to give. We want to go on and do one better." Hopefully against Stoke we get those 3 points. And I have to say, I watched the match against Leeds today, and I'm not too concerned about them, but you've got to go and do the job. Um, yeah, look, we have, for me, I'm trying to think of a time Sunderland have had a more exciting midfield that they can put forward across the board. They've had great midfielders in the past. Don't get me wrong at all, and we've talked about them in other pods. But and special mentions to Eric Roy and Stefan Schwartz, particular favourites of mine. Oh, and Captain America, Claudio Reyna himself. But like Paul Bris, well, sorry, I'm just reminiscing and making myself happy now. The way they play this midfield, I'm very, very happy with. Fully fit, of course. You have Mundle in there as well, and it's even better. But yeah, look, lots of positives to take from it. The result just lets it down because of the way it comes. I mean, what minute did their goal go in? Is it the 88th or something like that?
No, it
It's
was
too late for
later.
it to be.
I looked at it was weird today because it's it's not the first time I felt like this, but Ashley can attest to this. I kept going,
90th. It's officially the 90th minute it went in.
yeah, because I kept saying, I can't. There's a chance in this for them, and I can just see. And because you have that law of averages where you kind of think, oh, we've come back so often and won and hung on. I thought today's the day we bloody well won't and probably deserve to because look, I don't think they did anything second half. I think first half they probably would say they deserved a point based on the game. I think that's pretty fair. But I felt
Yep.
like at the time when they looked like the least were going to score, that was when they did. But I'm I'm genuinely happy with most of it. I think the things that I can pick out are kind of what people asked within the questions that were in the listeners' questions. And the first one will come up. Look, we'll speak about my ender. It's gonna have to happen.
Yeah, we have to. We have to. Yeah.
But before we do, there seems to be more questions coming to us and more chat online about Pato. Talked him up on Saturday because I thought he deserved the shout out for basically his save at the end, winning us a game.
Absolutely.
But someone raised a really good point today, and a lot of people were sort of going, aye. And we've chatted about it in the group chat. I'm not a Pato hater in any way, shape, size, or form. I think he looks gormlessly hilarious, but I think he's in general a decent goalkeeper that could maybe get marginally a little bit better. My biggest worry with Pato at the moment is a lot of the goals that we concede look cheap. And when you really dig into it, I go, right, is Chris Mepham not a good centre half? Is it O'Nien not? Is Dan Ballard not? And I'm starting to think, hang on a minute. There's someone there not commanding that back line, which makes me think it's maybe Pato. Now, my biggest concern, this is where I'll flip this when we speak about my ender, is Pato is now not a young, inexperienced goalkeeper that you can kind of go, okay, you're going to make errors. He's now in his third season in the Championship. His kicking's actually getting worse. It puts us under a lot
Every
of
game
hassle.
with every game it's getting worse, and it's I think it's becoming a mental thing from him, if I'm honest, because it seems that way. It seems like he's got the yips with it. It's terrifying, if I'm honest, every time the ball gets come back to him.
And when we're conceding goals, it looks like an unorganised defence. Now, we can blame Mepham. I'm not going to, because I think whilst the first goal he could have maybe been better, he's also a bit unlucky. I think O'Nien, we spoke about O'Nien, I thought he had a good game today. I think Ballard has been okay the past few games as well, even though I think he's not been at the standard he should be at compared to what we've been used to over the past few years. So where does it come down to? You could say Serkin needs to do better on the cross, on the second one. Definitely need to do better. I'd argue to say that Aji might have done a bit more. But it all seems to come down to the goals we've conceded recently come from something not being commanded in the area, and that's the keeper. And look, someone, I'm not going to say what they actually said because it's obviously quite offensive, but funny, but offensive, said Pato was basically a mute. And he sort of is. And it's now not at the point where you can say he's a young and experienced goalkeeper. It's now getting to the point where it's more of is it a trait where it's not going to change? Because he seems like he's stuck to his line a bit. And the defenders seem a bit unsure. Is there a worry about Pato, Pete?
Yes, do you know what? You've absolutely hit the nail on the head there with the idea that he isn't this. He's a monster of a man. He's a big, gigantic creature, and he should be putting the fear of God not only into the opposition but into his defenders as well. Pato should be like that. He should be like that, and it needs to be there, and it's not, and it's missing. And put that with the kicking, which is probably my bigger concern. Than I'm not screaming and shouting at defenders. But yeah, the kicking I am really worried about, and I am worried that it's becoming a mental thing for him. That he's like, oh crumbs, if it comes to me on me right, I don't know what I'm going to do with it. And if I'm an opposition coach talking to my strikers, I'm going to say when they pass it back to him, and they will, you press him hard because there's a flaw there. And I think Anthony Patterson is a very good goalkeeper. On his day, I think he's a top quality goalkeeper, and there's a reason he is being looked at by teams higher up the pyramid than Sunderland right now. I think there's more chance of him stopping based on his recent performances than him leaving. Then certainly he was earlier in the season where I think he was unbeatable. But yeah, there's something not right there. And, I've made fun of Anthony Patterson saying, he looks like a lad who shouldn't be left alone with a bag of loose buttons. Because it's a choking hazard. But, God love him. Sorry, Anthony. Sorry. I'm only jesting because you're a giant of a man. And I am nothing but a tiny hobbit. But, yeah, there's something not right, and I hope it gets sorted. And it's bad when... I say it's bad, it's also good. It's when we're kind of looking at... Well, Young's doing very well at Salford, isn't he?
Can I be honest? I didn't think Simon Moore was that bad. He's not the long-term
No,
project,
I don't think at all.
I didn't notice much difference between the pair. I thought Simon Moore made some good saves. I remember one at Preston because I was right behind it. Tipped over the bar from I think it was a young Danish lad. I don't think his kicking was brilliant either. Don't get me wrong, but I mean, if I'm comparing it to Pato's, I'm not losing much. I'm probably gaining a bit. And I'm not saying let's put Simon Moore in, that changes everything, but there's got to be a point. Look, we did the unpopular opinions one, and those tons that came in about Pato, and I thought, no, he saved us a point on Saturday. I'm not going to go into it. And then today, I was just like, I mean, look, this sounds awful, but like someone hilariously said the other week that he looks like he eats Pritt sticks at half time. And like, obviously he doesn't, as far as we're aware. But I feel like Pato gives off the aura of like nice lad, bit dim, bit daft. I want him to be like not tearing defenders' head off, but just command your area because it's at the minute something's wrong with that defense because we're not keeping clean sheets. And for me, from watching and observing the games, I think it is Pato.
Command of the area needs to be in command of the back four. Yeah. I don't know how you sort that.
I mean, I don't either, so we'll move on.
I guess if we did, we wouldn't be doing this, would we?
I wouldn't be doing a podcast if I knew anything about football.
Probably be a
goalkeeper
coach. Aye. Look, yeah, there's an issue there. What we want them to go to Stoke, keep a clean sheet, and ideally, when we're 5 up, make an absolutely outstanding save and get that bit of, get that back in his locker and go, right, that's one more clean sheet for me this season.
I think the other negative was obviously my enders miss, which I'm annoyed I'm speaking about it because I thought the past 2 games, I know people disagree, but I thought my end has been fine the past 2 games considering the whole context. But there's a real mix of stuff online, to be honest, and there was a mix in the ground, despite the fact that most people were like, bugger. Some people were going, oh God, he's got to score that. And look, it's clearly for me a really poor piece of decision making. But look, you might have a different opinion, people. I'll give mine on my ender. And people might say, oh, you just give Pato a bit of a hammer in there. But
we have.
but Pato's had 4 years. So like, look, when I go to Sunderland games, I think anyone listen to the Wembley podcast when I did the bit at the end and I talked about how class it was because it just made me day and it was going to live with us forever. Look, I'm aware, and I think some people are aware, I've had a life-threatening disease at some point, and it's quite funny how that makes you think about life, and then you realise, oh shit, I'm not going to be about forever. So when I go to games, look, I like live for Sunderland really. I live for football. It's part of me job. It's part of me profession. Me fandom is the big part of it, and me fandom is Sunderland. But I think I'm also fully aware that Sunderland are not going to be Manchester City and win just shit in my lifetime all the time. So I try my very best at the minute to enjoy the good times as best as I possibly can, even if those good times don't match most of what other clubs get. Sometimes, to be honest, I just want to go to Blackburn Rovers away and think we've got a chance of winning this today. And I like the 11 lads that are on the pitch. And my end is included in that. And what annoys me most about your Jack Rodwells, your Brendan Galloway's, your Elite Camps, is they've wasted my time. I'm going to have, if I'm really lucky, another 40-ish years, 45 years on this, hopefully longer. And hopefully I'll see something win loads of things in that. But in the kind of period I'm on this earth, I've chose that I want to watch Sunderland and waste a lot of time. So when Rodwell and Brendan Galloway and all these players are shite, I go, oh, for God's sake, you know what? You've just annoyed me because you don't care. You just don't get it. So my thought process on my end has gone pretty deep. But this is genuinely how I felt after the game. My enders miss was an absolute killer. It's a really, really, really bad miss. But I think some of the vitriol is reactive and a little bit poor. The lad was absolutely gutted at the end. He came over to apologise. He had his chin lifted up by Patrick Roberts, the poor bugger. Most people clapped him and said, look, Eli, it's all right. Knee bar, that can't stop calling him Eli after that video the other day. What I'm trying to say is I can accept a mistake. I can accept a young lad out of position, learning his trade, making a mistake. Young boy, he's working his knackers off. I think he works really hard. He's in his first full senior season. He's probably started about 7 games, about 4 or 5 of them up front. And I think a lot of the stuff that came out from that miss, which people are entitled to do, don't get me wrong, but we're judging what level of striker he's going to be. There was a lot of, oh, he's League One at best. He's never going to be good enough for the first team. And I'm not disagreeing with you on that. What I'm saying is that a young lad this early in his career, it's his first full season. Last season wasn't. He didn't play for Hibs. He barely played for us. He could be a League One striker. He could be a lower end League Two striker. He could be a non-league striker. He could be Premier League. At the moment, we just don't know what he's going to be. He's shown promise. He's also shown mistakes and very, very much looked raw at points. But when we batter him this early in his career, when he has made an error like that, he's not going to be boosted by it. And look, it benefits no one. What I would say, if he keeps making the same mistake and he does it repeatedly and repeatedly and repeatedly, that's fair enough. I think that's when criticism becomes just. But for me at this point, he's started about 7 games. We cannot judge his career just yet. The lad knows he's made a mistake. If he does that another 7 times towards the end of the season, all right, fair enough. But he's obviously known he's buggered it. And he has. It's bloody awful. It's terrible. I could have absolutely shot him with shit when he done it. But he's done it. It is what it is. I know I went deep on that, but that's just my thought process on it. I wasn't mad at him. I was just like, oh, my ender man. But he's
I'm
a
not
kid.
angry. I'm just disappointed.
Yeah. But he's a kid. He's a kid. There'll be a point when we have to judge him, and football is about judging players. What I'm trying to say is I'm more angry at stuff that happened with Pato today than I am with my ender at the end, because I can accept a mistake from a kid at his stage in his career, and I can accept it was terrible and a bloody awful miss and one of the worst I've ever seen. Well, it wasn't even a miss. I can accept it was one of the worst pieces of decision making I've ever seen as a Sunderland fan, but I don't think it'll define his career. It's too early.
I can't help but agree with almost everything you said. But I mean, I was raging at him at full time when he missed.
Same.
I was absolutely raging. And then I read online that he'd gone over to the fans, and I messaged you and said, "Is this legit? Did this happen?" And then I'm like, I can't be upset with a 19-year-old kid who's got the balls, who's got the arsehole to go and stand in front of 7,500 Sunderland fans and say I'm sorry and be legitimately contrite enough that Paddy Roberts goes over and puts his chin up for him. Do you know, fair play to that kid for doing that. It's a shocking miss. It's a shot where it's not even, as you said, it's not even a miss. He didn't even get a shot away. I just wish it had been rules reversed. I wish it had been Mayenda who got the hoof forward and it had been Isidore running onto it, because I think it would be a different story.
Only point I'd make out with that, Wilson had exactly the same chance against Norwich, missed it, put it in Rose Ed.
Ah, very true. Very true. Very true.
What I'm trying to say is anyone can make that mistake. This kid is so early in his career. I just saw a lot of the stuff after his miss was like, oh, he's never going to be good enough. He's a League One striker. I don't know if he'd get in League One. I'm not saying I disagree with it. I don't know. I genuinely don't know where my ender is. I think he's got raw capabilities and raw talents. But let's see if he does that another 4 or 5 times. If he's still in the same position the next 4 years, which is my argument with Pato, then let's start going, hang on a minute. I don't think we'll wait 4 or 5 years. Don't get me wrong if he keeps doing that. But you see my point. It's not a pattern of behaviour yet because it can't be.
If he bangs that one in, if he bags one in on Sunday against Stoke, he will tear the roof off that away end. And if he gets one against Sheffield United, he will tear the roof off that stadium. And good luck to him. Look, anybody who pulls on a red and white shirt, all I want them to do is be the best player that can be and get the best results. And I hope nothing but the best for Elisa Mayenda. I have absolutely no idea where that boy's career will end up. I just want them to be able to control one of those that comes through when he's in full flight. Because, yes, he's quick. And I've heard people say, well, he's only quick and that's all he can do. And I can see the argument for people saying, look, he's got to put that away. It doesn't matter what level what age you are. If you're at this level, you've got to be good enough. And I agree with that sometimes. I think if you're coming out in the championship, you've got to be a championship level player. But he's 19 years old. And I know, I've got chances for my ender next. I hope. And I can't decide. I know I said if he scores against Stoke, he'll tear the roof off. I don't know whether he needs to sit one out or whether you chuck him straight back in and go, you cocked up that one, son. Get out there and put it right next time. But it's, look, he's playing for Sunderland. I want him to keep on going. I'm not going to tear him apart as a striker right right now. And plus, he's playing on the left wing. He's been asked to do a job there, which is, I don't think he's ever going to be a left winger as long as I've got a hole in my bum. But I've still got hope for him. I just wish it had fallen to somebody else, if I'm honest. I wish it had fallen to Adil. Because I think he's got a bit more composed and control in front of goal and a bit more sharp shooter about him. But here's hoping it's onwards and upwards for Elisa.
You touched on Adil there. It's kind of a point I don't really want to bring up, but I'm going to have to. Riggy's injury didn't look good. We'll probably know
great,
more.
Does it?
Well, you might know more by the time you listen to this podcast. I don't know, but if he is out, which I think it's safe to say he's probably going to be out for a couple of games at the very least. A, how big of a blow is it? B, who comes in? Like, where do you make those changes? Because we're getting threadbare now.
We really are. I'm waiting for my call up. It's absolutely threadbare. I'm tempted because I've spoken before of my love for a redemption story, but we've got two possible redemption stories there. You've got Connolly that can come in that like a forward position, but I think he then doesn't give you what Rig gives you going backwards. And again, I think you also get that from Adil as well, from Aushish. French Dave, I believe you used to call him when I was merely a listener.
He was called Auchichi today by the Blackburn Rovers.
Auchichi, I love a bit of that.
I know him, man.
Personally, I'd go with Aushish and keep Connolly as the striker that can come in, because I think Connolly's better when he's played further forward. I don't think either of them will ever give you anything that Chris Rigg gives you. I think Chris Rigg is a phenom. I think he's set to be one of the all-time greats, and not just at Sunderland, I think at the international level as well. And I think it's a privilege at times to watch him and Job play in Sunderland's midfield, because there's every chance that will be part of the midfield that starts a World Cup or a European Championships for England at some point. I wonder if you can get that. I don't gamble. I wonder if you can get that bet on. Nobody's going to give you what Chris Rigg gives you. I don't think there's a player like him in this league. I don't think there's a player like him in the Premier League either. It's certainly not at his age. 50, I think I heard on the TV today, he's got 50 appearances now in the first team. Class. You know, he's. I'm trying to think. I mean, as I said on the Christmas pod, I'm sat next to my childhood bedroom. I'm trying to think what I was doing at 17. It certainly wasn't that. It was, yeah. So no, we're not going to go into that. We're not going down that route. I don't think anybody replaces Riggy. But if you have to replace him, because you do, and honestly, the look on the lad's face and seeing him being taken down the tunnel like he was, and his shoulders heaving, I think he was looking like he was sobbing. Really, it doesn't look good. It doesn't sound good, like what's coming out already, and we just have to wait and hope that it's just a massive, massive bruise that he's taken, and he's going to have a couple of weeks out while he gets that swelling down, and hopefully he's back. But we'll know more Friday. I got the day right. I've been wrong all day. Friday lunchtime, I reckon. Yeah, put our sheesh in and let him prove Reggie's wrong.
I agree with Ricky. Look, I think the annoying thing is the past couple of games, he's looked back at the Chris Rick. I think we know the pressing from him today was excellent. He was class today. I think he was outside of Daniel, our best player in my opinion. He got his goal today, but I just hope, if any, I have said at points I would like to see him get a rest. So if he's gonna have to have an enforced one, hopefully it's just like a full gamer. But look, it doesn't look great. Before we go, because it would be remiss of me to mention it, because it has again been mentioned by a lot of people. It's been in my head as well. We've got one defeat in 16. There's a lot of good stuff that has come from Regis Lebris. We've lost only 4 games all season, 3 or 4. There's not too much to complain about with it. But I'm going to throw this question at you. If Regis Lebris made his substitutions faster, would we have even more points on the board?
Yes, and I think today was a big highlight for that because they brought five. They brought five on, all five,
Aye.
and it makes a massive difference when you can basically change half the team. And it was one of the lads who had fresh legs who gets the goal. And the pressing style that Sunderland were playing, particularly in the first 10, 15, 20 minutes of the second half, doesn't matter how fit you are, that is going to absolutely sap any strength that you have. And they looked like they needed changing. And I'm sat watching with my 97-year-old granddad who, he's there going, sharp as a tack, man. It's class. I love it a bit. But he sat there going, he needs to change. He needs to get them subs warmed up it was around 60 minutes. That they've done the business. They've got themselves back in front. Change it up, secure this win. And he's completely right. And I can't tell whether he doesn't do it because he's trying to send a message to the recruitment team that he doesn't have some of the players that he needs. He doesn't have the round pegs to fill the round holes. Or he doesn't do it because he wants to show the lads that he picked, I've got confidence in you to go out and do it. But there's some reason why Lebris does not fancy making changes quickly. Now, one of the big criticisms of Tony Mowbray was that he would just make changes. Like, I'll just bring some players on. And it would occasionally just absolutely destroy the rhythm of a team that was playing. I don't know why Regis does it, but yeah, I really think he needed to change that earlier today. If he had done, I don't think we would have conceded that scrappy goal late.
Yeah, I agree. I think if my one criticism is that he doesn't make the changes at the right time. Sometimes he does, but there's more where he doesn't, and he does. And I feel like today, look, even if he brought on like a Harrison Jones or something, you give him a new contract, show a bit of faith in him, bring him on. I think the ideal substitution. We looked good going forward when he came on, even though we conceded a few of the chances had him involved, and a lot of it was because he looked fresher. But look, we move on. It is what it is. 2-2 draw at Blackburn we would have took beforehand, so let's just take it afterwards, suck it up, go to Stoke and win. But Peter, happy Christmas, mate, I guess.
Merry Christmas. How are my bunny lads? Let's on to Stoke.